Hi, I'm Eric Dunn, Principal Consultant here at Wrike. Before joining Wrike, I was working at Airbus Group in their passenger jet and helicopter business units, and at Toyota before that. Now, while the automotive industry in general, and Toyota in particular, are taken as a benchmark of lean product development, its origins can be traced to the story of the Wright brothers and the birth of manned flight more than 100 years ago. Let's get started. We all know how important product development is for all companies, whether it's a startup or a Fortune 500 company. Product development mistakes, whether it's delays, cost overruns, product flops, can have fatal consequences. What we can learn from the Wright brothers' lean approach as opposed to their main competitor's approach, Samuel Langley, can bring valuable lessons for product development. Let's just set the context for a moment. It's the late 1800s, and the world was just abuzz about the possibility of manned flight, and Samuel Langley was the man to achieve that. He was a renowned scientist and the head of the Smithsonian. He had just received a grant of about $50,000, that's about $1.5 million in today's money, to achieve that dream. Meanwhile, in Kansas, the Wright brothers were running a bicycle shop and experimenting with flight in their free time. So, how did it happen that these two brothers beat Langley on the race to manned flight? Let's look at their approach. Langley's approach was very typical even for today's standards. Design first, then build the aircraft, and then test. But let's look at the results that he achieved. He invested 17 years of his life trying to achieve manned flight. He invested more than $70,000 of federal money, and the result? The airplane never flew. On the other hand, the Wright brothers achieved manned flight after spending only 22 months in the course of 4 years and spending a little bit above $1,000. So, what was so different about their approach? Well, while most airmen were spending most of their time and countless hours designing and building their airplanes, they were just spending only a few seconds testing them before the airplane actually crashed and killed them as a result. The Wright brothers started actually by testing and experimenting at the outset of their project. They divided the problem of flight in 3 key elements that they needed to figure out at the beginning. Number 1, lift. Number 2, propulsion. Number 3, steering and control. They tested and tested these elements until they learned everything there was to learn. They built wind tunnels, manned gliders, scaled kites, everything they could in order to learn about those 3 elements and gather all the necessary data until they could actually guarantee success. Only when they had learned everything that they had to learn did they commit to designing and building their aircraft, and their first design was a success. So what lessons can we obtain out of this story? Lesson number 1, learn first, design and build later. Most other airmen were actually learning too little, too late, as opposed to the Wright brothers' approach. Lesson number 2, break down the problem. Langley was trying to solve the puzzle of manned flight. The Wright brothers, on the other hand, broke down the problem into 3 elements, as I mentioned, only focusing on those 3 elements and nothing else until they can guarantee success. Lesson number 3, bust all assumptions. The Wright brothers, through their testing and experimenting, found out that most of the data that other scientists were taking for granted were actually incorrect. They corrected this data on paper first before building their airplane. That's all for today. If you would like to learn more about this and other related subjects, visit us at wrike.com/blog. See you next time.